intact and will not need replacing. Certainly the case with this boat. What we're doing is we're just doing an angled cut there with a hacksaw beam on, and then they're just left as is really. On the whole foredeck while we're here, all the non-slip pattern has to go with a careful grinding. Angle grinder is about the only tool for the job. There is a lip between the flat gel coat here and the raised pattern, and it looks kind of ugly if you don't take that back all the way. But you do have to be careful grinding, because if you look here where Christian has been a bit animal.
That's not the point I was making.
When we zoom in here,
where
you can see where he's come a bit close to the hatches around here, and this anything you come too close to these hinge bases and everything is going to require a fill. You're gonna, okay, director, tell me when you're going to cut, eh?
Right.
Not just stop and filming willy-nilly. Okay, zoom down here please. Thank you. Now this is a stanchion base. Now normally you have water damage in this area here, but on this boat for some reason we haven't. And someone has done a repair before where there's a plywood piece in here. Instead of using core to repair here, we're generally using ply in there to take the stanchion loads. Although remember that you're on an IC24, this stanchion here is not really being leaned up against like it would be with crew dancing around on the foredeck of a J24, putting spinnakers up and what have you. So the loads aren't as great. And where the stanchion bases go, the one behind that, here and here, you're going through monolithic laminate and there's no core involved. So this is the only one you really have to repair. Where the stanchion base was further forwards, just go ahead. See right there? That has been repaired, as you can see. Nothing goes in that position, so it just has to be a sound repair. The stem fitting is taken off during the conversion. Underneath this one we had some damaged laminate, and I don't know if you can see there where I've cut off the old deck moulding square to make the repair more straightforward. Nothing wrong with doing that. All these repairs obviously are going to need an epoxy skin fill before the all grip goes on, and this is sprayed with all grip, so what you see is what you get. I'm not saying this boat is ready by any means. The underside of the hatch I'm going to show you, but this needs reinforcing. We'll do that when we jump down.
And cut. You're on.
Ready, steady? This is the transom. Now, J24, I mean, these boats vary so much, it's hard to generalize, but the plywood post that we took off this boat had 3 blobs of glue on it, like one there, and one there. One hit with a hammer and it was off. And it's only tabbed in by a little bit of thin cloth. It's not even a biaxial mat or anything strong. So, also, over the years, remember if you're dealing with a 1978, 1979 boat, it's 25 years old now. With all the rudder fittings wriggling around over that amount of time, there's bound to be water ingress, especially around the lower pintles and gudgeons. So, you'll find there's going to be some rot under here, unless someone's done this job before. By far the most simple way to deal with this is to actually just chisel in here, chisel in there, chisel there, knock the whole thing off, use it as a template, put a new piece of ply in with drywall screws initially, just to hold it there with a nice epoxy mix, let it go off, and then just tab in. Again, we've used epoxy here, give it a birthday, and back there, because this isn't an area you want to be going back to repair in 5 years' time, because the rudder's gone out of true because it's all wobbly. What I will say though is, whatever you do, lose the original holes back here, and when you take the gudgeons off the boat, be sure you know exactly which one was which, because they're all slightly different, and if you get them mixed up and you lose your hole centers, you're going to have a devil of a job to line the rudder back up and get the pins going down straight, believe me. Now, we've started the process here. What we've done is to find the holes, we've just drilled through with a 1/4 inch bit from the original holes on the outside. And now, started the process here. This is going to go out to 5/8 and then be countersunk actually out here, every single hole, and then filled until it comes out of the original hole on the back of the boat with high density epoxy again. So when the new bolts go in, they are through a column of high density, and when you tighten them up, you're not crushing plywood and laminate. You don't want to be going back in, because the whole new deck is here and the access isn't brilliant. Now there's various things back here. You got I can't remember what that was. It might have been a bilge pipe or something. I think this was a nav light, but anyhow, there's various.
That's sluices for the
cockpit drain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So these just have to be plugged up, and what I do here is because they've been holes there for a long time. Once again, you find bad core around them. So I drill larger with a bigger hole saw, and then save a bit of depth that you've chopped away, and use the same hole saw to chop out some plugs, and then just epoxy in those plugs using a bit of the old boat to make the transom flush. Now we're about to drill the drain holes for the new boat, and they're going to be coming in something like this here. But we'll be doing that from the outside. If you go back there, Christian, filming forwards, you can see now how much of the original boat we chop away. You can basically come right down these seams here, really close to the IBU. You can come very close to the top of the inner grid unit here, because you don't use this height to mount the new deck. There is a plywood piece that comes up to hit the new deck. What you do need to know is how far this bulkhead is from the transom, because that varies boat to boat. And you mount your plywood on this face here, which comes up and meets the new deck, which will be about this level. But you need to have the deck perfectly prepared to accept tabbing on of this plywood where the vertical meets the new deck. Because if you don't have that prepared, then the first time someone sheets in the main sheet, then all the tabbing is going to pop off the bottom of the deck, and that is not a nice job to climb in there and grind it out after the event. We just do a basic fill over the tabbing here to tidy things up, but you know, it hasn't got to be a finished oil painting down here. The only part of the boat that is viewed after the conversion is completed is this area here, because you're going to be sat here in the new deck looking in. So if you can keep these rounds nice, and you know, round off the plywood, fill in any voids. If you are keeping an old stringer like that, try to just smooth things out, because this is where you look. There's an old sink drain here as well, which needs a fill right there. But yeah, people aren't going to be living down here. You know, it's not. It hasn't got to be perfect, but it has got to be workmanlike. Action. Today we finished all the repairs here, believe it or not. There's a few more holes to fill, but we are now going to paint everything you see, including up yonder, with a good single part epoxy paint. We'll specify that. There's one brand that I like, but I've not been able to get any more of. But everything inside these lockers, everywhere you look, receives a coat of paint. And some of it will need 2 coats where you've got bare wood. Very important to have everything sealed down here. Okay, your lazarette hatch is pretty straightforward. You have 2 plywood templates here. You put the bigger one on first of all, you go around the inside of it, and that gives you the one here. You then just jigsaw out the hatch, and it's a lot easier to do that inside here than outside because the jigsaw won't make it under there. You then cover the back of the cutter out. Well, I just use silver foil, and you put it back to where it was originally, just using a bit of silicone. I'm not sure that's right way up, but you just use a little bit of silicone or a glue gun just to hold it perfectly flush from whence it came. Then outside here, you can just see the edges of it here. You're doing tabbing that wide, 2 layers all the way around to form a glass fibre rebate for the hatch to sit against that will never rot and never need attention. And when you come to cut that out, use the smaller of these two, and you just stick that in there. You draw around it, and that gives you your nice even cut out there for the hatch to sit against. And then all we're doing to secure these hatches when the boat is done is we're just doing a bit of 1/2-inch rope braid, with a nice colourful braid, 2 1/2-inch holes, and the rope goes through, so you just got a rope back on that side, and on the reverse side you're just sewing it together so it comes back here in a loop, and then from there you can attach a bit of bungee to the back of the boat, which is here, and that of course gives you your hatch, its seating. Now on the front, do you want to go back? Rolling?
Yeah.
Up forward. You have a longboard. First of all, you have to longboard the edges. This doesn't have to match the old deck perfectly, just however it's come. These have to be nice and straight. Just do rounds on the corners, and then this you offer up. Just have to hold it there while you draw around it. Boom, boom, boom. Where's my marks? There they were. Something like that. And then, I haven't got it in my hand. We have a teak. You'll be given a pair of teak rails that actually locate this hatch. It drops down into them. And the idea is that your teak rail is going to be here, and there's just going to be a little bit of boat sticking out beyond the end of the teak rail. So let's just pretend the teak rail is that wide. Alright, and it's stepped out at this point, so the hatch runs down in it, but your teak rail sits like that. But I don't want the teak rail out like that, because then when you come up from down below you're going to take it off. I want it just so the glass is proud of the teak, and then with traffic up and down it's not going to rip the thing off. It means you have to restrict the opening a little bit, but so what. At the bottom, all you need is enough for this to sit down over it, and not a lot more. Roll it. Okay, not rocket science this, but the new deck is going to be sitting on a regular piece of boat like that, so you have to grind away any high spots that have been left by Spencer and his crew, and you also, the grinding is obviously to make this ready to receive the epoxy putty, and you have on the bow here you have to do it around here because you do get a finger fill of epoxy in that area there to beef up that whole bulkhead. Also, cuff. Okay. Next deal is you have to longboard the edges of this new deck, because it's pretty much impossible to get these straight once the deck is installed on the boat. side. This is just a case of longboarding here, and at the same time I just round this to make it easier when you're doing a little finger fill there when the epoxy has gone in.
And that's all the way around?
All the way around, so come on round and follow me. It doesn't have to be 100% regular. If you look at this one, you'll get an idea of how good it has to be. Alright, look down this edge and walk around with me. You see, it's not perfect, but I did this in about half an hour, all the way around. You are going to have epoxy here to take up some imperfections, and if there's any, like imperfections in the mold gel coat, that is going to be taken up by the epoxy as well. Remember that everything up here is going to be sanded back and have non-slip on it, so you're not trying to save a gel coat shiny surface right there. Where you come to the corners, I just round this. Once again, you can't really do it once it's installed very easily. Transom nice and square. When I was talking to Morgan down in St. Thomas, he was saying that he actually measured each boat across the gunnel to gunnel, to see if he had to cut away any of this deck to fit the boat. But we haven't found we've had to do that. You get a varying amount. I mean, we've had like from half an inch up to 3/4 at the back here, and when it goes in on the boat, some places it will be closed and others it will gradually get further away. But we haven't found a need to cut away any of these decks from Spencer's cut marks. I'd rather see the deck there and a bit of irregularity on the gap to the gunnel rather than cut this away and have not such a strong boat. Back here, if you come underneath, this is where the drain tubes are going to go, and you can see I've ground away here, ready to set the tube. The tube, if you hang on, the tube is here, which you'll be making. Very straightforward. The tube doesn't actually go into that hole there, but it is going to be at a strange angle because it's going out. So you have to do a sort of angled cut on your tube so it meets that nice and square. And what I use is a plumbing fitting, a PVC pipe end that just fits in there with a bit of masking tape around it, nice and tight. And then you've got your plumbing fitting sat out there like a peg, and boom, that goes on it, and it holds it there while you're doing your epoxy bead all around there. On number one, I was tabbing this on, but I don't think it's necessary if you get a nice epoxy radius there and on the transom of the boat. You're going to the back of the boat. You do need to cut your drain hole tube. Okay, you're looking at the back of a pretty tired paint job here. The drain holes, I'm going to produce a template so we can get these in exactly the same spot every time. But it kind of arcs through that whole one there. And I've forgotten the size of the hole, so I think it's 3.5 inches, but you can have that to do this job, unless you have it yourself. Cut. Okay, this is the plywood bulkhead that supports the deck right there. When we fit this, we just use drywall screws through this. A nice epoxy fibre mix there. That bonds it to the bulkhead that's in the boat that we were looking at earlier. But this is the key deal. This is 5. It's not even. Is it 5/8? Yeah. It's not even 5/8. Anyhow, this is going up against the deck here, and you try to get a nice putty mix there, and you actually ground away in preparation for. You've measured how far this is going to be from the transom, and then you've marked it on here. It might not necessarily be where there's a break in the gel coat on your deck, if there is a break in the gel coat on the deck you have, but you do have to spend some time grinding this away to expose the laminate, because when you radius your epoxy here It's very hard to get a tab in here on the aft side because there's no access. So you're only tabbing on the forward face of this. And on 2 of the boats we've had to go back and re-tab because we've had problems with the main sheet load pulling the deck off this bulkhead. So it won't be a problem if there's good keying going on and good epoxy tabbing, no polyester in this situation.
Okay.
Okay, as I was talking about earlier, how you need to grind away. You can see if you look at that, how there's no way that is going to produce a satisfactory bond to the deck. You have to get rid of these Spencerisms, where you have great mountains of laminate there and all over the place. And the amount of longboarding you have to do on the gunwale depends who cut this out. Now if you look at this one, look down that way, Christian, you can see this is very wriggly. So in this case you probably have to mark out if you grind, to grind it first with an angle grinder and then go on with the longboard. We'll make sure Spencer gets this deck for his boat. Cut. Okay, top side. I don't know at this stage whether you guys are going to be doing the painting as well, seeing we get such a good deal in the yard here, but you may be. So what we do is, it's easy to show on this boat because she's original gel coat as opposed to the other boat we were looking at that has been painted several times. Now what we use is the lower edge of this factory boot stripe, which you can always find. Every J's got one. So you just have to go back in this area at the waterline, find where this is, and what we do is we just drill very shallow holes to, not holes, you're just really scratching the gel coat to mark the waterline all the way along both sides, and then you have, for your oar grip, you'll be preparing below that line slightly, but that is all you're worried about for the oar grip job. No boot stripes. We're not doing boot stripes for the first 10 boats. After that, it's up to the individual. Below the waterline, again, I'm not sure if you're doing it, but you hope that you get a nice boat like this that has only got some anti-fouling coat very thin over the original gel coat. If it's like this with Joyce, because this just flats off and on goes the anti-fouling. We're at this point, if there's no evidence of blisters, we're not going on with International 3000 gel shields at this point. Now if you look at this boat over here, okay. Now taking a look here, it's fairly typical of what you're going to find on a J24. There's, they've all been aground at some point. The boat's 25 years old, it's got to be aground at least once or twice. And when they go aground, they'll strain this area here. So I would imagine that is what this is about. This is the original black gel coat you can see, and there's been a repair gone on here. Not a particularly brilliant one, so we'll be grinding this back beyond the gel coat, doing a little spot biaxial repair and then fairing. Now the keel, lead, 800 pounds of it, is basically hanging from the stub at about that height. Alright, so if you've got lots of cracking in this area here, then it is indicative of a keel on the loose. This one isn't too bad. I mean, I'm not sure what this is, but there's just some boats have had their keels faired, so there might be various grades of filler on the keel being applied at various times. Really what we're doing is we're not doing any keel fair jobs at this point. We're just making good. If there's any layers of filler falling off, then try to get the worst of it off. dribble some neat epoxy in there and do a low density fill. Fair. Any drain holes that you've drilled, and they're all over the place on this boat, that we drilled to keep because we wash out the inside when we're grinding at various times for the build process. Obviously they all have to be filled with epoxy. Cut.
Go.
Okay, rigs. As you can see, you got all manner of different rigs. You got black anodized spars, you got silver anodized spars, and then you got original older painted spars. Now I don't know whether you guys are going to be doing rigs. It depends how we play the game. But if you get one like this, then you don't have to strip all the paint off, but you do have to give it an aggressive wet flat to feather where there's been any peeling. Fittings, it depends what the rivets look like as to whether you want to take them all off. There are some fittings that aren't used, like that cheek block right there isn't used on an IC24, so that can go. We do have spare sheaves for every single part of the mast, and before the mast goes up, all the sheaves have to be tended to rolling, so for spinnaker as well, because we rig up the boat for spinnaker, but we don't supply all the cordage, but it has to be ready to go. And also we, for example, this is just a Harkin 150 canopy, and this has been mounted flat cleat on a curved mast, but we do have a curved base for these. And as part of the mast job, you do have to fit 3 sets main jib spinnaker of these 150s tapped into it's quarter 20, isn't it? Yeah, quarter 20 tapped into the mast, including the backing pad, to take the halyard load. And then underneath these cleats we are fitting just cheaper plastic horn cleats to take the halyard end.
There are 1024 screws used.
10, 20. Okay, yeah, quarter 24 too. 10, 20, right? Or 10, 24?
1024.
Spreaders now. Cut. Go. Alright, spreaders. Now, this is a new style J24 setup where they have a bar that goes right through the mast, through this sort of wraparound fitting. And this bar locates the spreaders, so the spreaders can't wiggle one way or the other. But the older style, if you come astern of me, Christian. Okay, the older style, as you can see on this spreader, and I can't make it move from where I am, but it's only got you see where that bolt is that I'm pointing at? That's the only thing holding the spreader, and the spreader is free to move backwards and forwards, which is not good. So what we do is we use this special tool here that Christian made. Quite an amazing thing this is. This actually sets the angle of the spreaders. So this is in the luff groove of the mast. There's a little custom sawn off nail there. And then the spreader end is clamped up tight there. And what it does, you can see it happening with 2 spreaders, one either side. It fixes the angle of the spreader relative to the mast. And all we do is we simply fill the spreader end here up with high density epoxy and let this go off overnight. And then afterwards the spreader cannot wag at all, and that is fixed. And it's as good as a bar, but a hell of a lot cheaper. So that is part of the mast work. Okay, looky. I don't know if you can zoom in here, but can you see a failed paint job right here? You see all the cracking, crazing going on? Now you would think that that was the last coat that's causing that, but you'd be wrong, because if you come in tight here, you can come in closer. Come. You get it?
Your finger is about the size of my head on this thing, right?
That's not hard. Alright, now it's this beige coat of paint here that has failed, and that has caused the outer layer to go bad. So in this case, this boat has to be sanded back to the original gel coat, which is black. Now that is a lot of work. If you are refinishing topsides, then we do have to look at each boat individually, because the original gel coat boat over there is a lot less work than refinishing this boat. But if you sand all grip on this, you might get this nice and flat with the wet sanding. You put an all grip 5.5 on there, it will be crazed within 6 months. So absolutely pointless. There's no alternative here but to go back to original gel coat. But when you're sanding, if you're putting someone on here with a DA sander, and we speak from painful experience, then you do have to be careful, because it's very easy to dish the top sides with a DA sander. It's not like sanding a car where you have a nice steel wing underneath 2 layers of paint that you can't sand through. If you go on with this with a DA that's running, you're just going to scallop out an area, and if you spray the boat any colour apart from matte white, you're going to see it in the final job. So there's a bit more to refinishing these boats than meets the eye.
Yeah, there we go.
Action.
Yeah, you're on, bro.
Alright, detail of transom pintle holes. There's your 5/8 drill bit. That's all your plywood that was going to go rotten. 5/8 holes, but friendly boat builders. I would. Okay. What?
I think you wanted it up in it.
I know, that's why you got to pump it out. Deck in today, but it's rained overnight. Get the boat up.
Alright, no more jokes. Action.
Okay. Mike has worked out how to turn the video.
That's not working.
Right, on the prop.
You're not going to say anything?
Hey?
You're not saying anything?
What do you want me to say?
You know.
Don't
This is all
epoxy
you-
your prop. This is a mix of, you can tell them,
Oh, no, you do it.
colloidal silica and microfibers, expertly mixed into a mayonnaise, slightly thick mayonnaise consistency. Trick is here to load it thicker on the outside than the inside edge, because it rises. Further back there, it's the opposite. The outside is lower than the inside, so it's not just a case of slapping this on.
Oh, shit. Vegetarian.
We're going to need more mix. How are you doing on yours?
I got plenty.
You got plenty. How far around did you get?
Halfway down the port side.
And on that note, Micah, I think we need some more mix. Do another 6 spot 8, give us half inch.
6. No, man, that was
What was the last
16.
one? Yeah, the window doesn't work, so you just got to look through the viewfinder.
The focus doesn't work either, eh?
Hey? Yeah, you're in and out. Is that?
No, but when I came in, it didn't focus. So
Oh,
anyway,
you just got to wait till it. What's that?
No, it's just, if you even drill it one tiny bit too much, it's stripped.
So that's when you need him to go down with a backing tab, Christian.
Yeah.
Mikey, you better get ready for that then. Blocks of plywood. Yeah, there's some in here.
Do that now or cut out?
Well, it sounds like Christian's going to need that.
Probably do it on fucking all of them. So take all the chocks that are on the ground that we just took off all of these.
No, they're all covered in epoxy. Aren't there enough other ones?
I mean, how much do you need for all of them?
How many strippers? I want this stacked down.
You want it down far?
Well, I want every single screw doing this job. So yeah, it sounds like you've got to get in there.
Should go down more, all of them. So maybe all of them should have fucking backing.
What, are they all stripping or what?
No, they're not all stripping, but I haven't like really lighten them up.
Get in there with a little chunk of plywood.
You know what I mean? I'm being very sensitive with them.
Sure.
We'll take them to just before they struck.
I mean, that could be great.
Okay, watch. So, good. Well, that one's alright.
Problem.
Ah,
I think it's thinner up the front.
I think it's probably just
Thinner.
one.
Dinner.
Pinner. Not proper pinner. That's it.
Hey, you just went and lost his drill bit.
Okay.
Lock up.
Fill up, went down there. Things don't go up.
Can you get a micro on the ones that are stripped, Christian? So he's not standing around. Just a rig, like a spare prick at a wedding.
See what one.
It's all ready for you now, mate.
Why this got to go down? Is there another screw bit?
That first one's fine, so it's the second to the fifth.
Chris, have you got another posi drive bit there? That Chris can use the other drill?
Yeah.
You're not drilling any more holes, are you?
No.
Chris, can you come in and wang some?
Okay. This is Jersey Devil, a famous J24. Been racing around the Virgin Islands for many, many years. The Stanton boys found fame with this boat. It's won the BVI Spring Regatta Rolex outright several times. But it's time for a change. Okay, if you can see on this red paintwork, it says Jersey
Okay. Huh?
Devil.
Yeah, you need a
But if we look on the back, we can see that after that it became the CCT boat phone Cats Mobile. Kids in the Sea, a great organisation getting kids out sailing. This is one of their J24s, but the times they are a changing, and right now Tortola is a pretty dodgy place to be if you want to remain being an old J24. So why is that? Let's find out. Here's part of the story. These are moulded decks, we call them, made down at Nanny Key by Chris Spencer and BVI Painters. We actually plant these into the cockpit of an old J24. Excuse me while I trip. And here you can see inside one. Here you can see underneath the top one. We literally chop everything away and sit the deck in. Sits in on that flange. And this kind of gunnel here becomes the gunnel of the new boat. The new IC-24. Here we have a view of our work site. There's Nebula, another boat up for the chop. In the background we have, can't remember the name of that boat. We'll call it Red Boat. And beyond that we have just rolled out, hot off the press, IC24 number 5. Let's go and have a look at that before we have a look at the old J24. So here we are aboard Jersey Devil, and the question is, why do we have to butcher an old J24 to make something like that? Well, not the best view in the world, the guys are working so I'm wobbling here, but there is the cockpit of the IC24, and here there's the foredeck for the J24. But here we have the cockpit of a J24. It's pretty small. To give you some idea, Micah is standing just about where the new cockpit ends. A little bit further forward he is, but everything you're looking at here in the frame is gonna go. There's no ceremony about it. We literally hack it away. We throw great chunks of boat out. So let's have a look. Here's an aft locker. There that all goes. This goes. That goes. The whole main sheet traveller. It goes. All this business here goes. All the tow rail here, it goes. The push pit, bye bye. The pull pit, same story. The stanchion bases, off, thrown away, not reused. And down below,
We have a fucking box
hey,
there.
hey, language, Timothy, language.
Dude, it's right there. Dude.
Christian's getting a little heated. Here he comes
Just thrown it in the box in the first place.
for a breath of fresh air. Obviously enjoying himself immensely.
Master of destruction.
How's it going down there, Sport?
Yeah, all right.
Good. Sounds like it.
Mosquitoes in the water and the...
There's a little bit of water. Well, I think it's time to drill a nice fat hole, don't you? Well, before I drill said hole, oh yes, here we are. Bit of a swimming pool. There's the old cockpit sole underneath. That is the dreaded vermiculite. All that's going to go. Everything. Watch this space. The date says May 20th. It is in fact 2:30 in the afternoon. So let's follow the progress and watch the transformation. Things are moving right along now. The time is, can't even see, 3:30 now, so yes, let's go, action.
This is the end of Jersey Devil.
Oh well, Stanton, your name is Stanton and you're in St. Croix, don't look now.
1, 2, 3.
Well, I didn't promise you a lot of ceremony, and that seems to be the case. Whoa there, tiger! Go inside.
You can see
Pieces of boat kind of get thrown out. You can see
What are you doing, mate?
I'm trying to fix your nuts.
sorry. Nice. We found a hard spot here. Hard work, is it? Oh, Micah is in the lead. Yeah, go through it. Go through it. Go through that.
That thing's an animal.
What? What's wrong? You want an animal one as well?
Yeah.
What's wrong with yours?
That's good.
Is your blade not so good? boys, simultaneous, please, simultaneous. Let's see these parts go together. Here we go. Bye bye, J 24 minutes. Boy, oh boy. Yes. Jersey Devil. You are change ed forever. Oh dear, oh dear.
Done this before, ain't he?
He enjoys it. Gordon Bennett.
Stomp it!
Done.
Stomp it with your foot! Stomp it! There you go, that's the cock! Stomp it again!
Yeah, they've done a bit of repairs there, haven't they? Good.
No.
What?
What up?
You ready for a dump?
You gotta lift with your cup, man. Might want to move that yet. Change the zone.
One mildly concerned new owner.
Traveler, and then I'll get out of your hair, please.
Oh, hey. Mike, I've never seen you stump for so long with one piece.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, look at that.
Yeah, now.
Yeah!
Man, he does that in flip-flops. Imagine him on the rugby field.
That makes it feel fucking good.
Oh. God, Micah over here is getting a little frustrated. Hey, he beat you there, Micah.
I know.
Yeah, it is out. It's whoa, cheese off bread. It didn't sound good. But it's gone. Yeah, you beat him there. Mike has done it loads of times.
Alright. Look at this. I love this.
Like that?
Oh, that's for a stanchion?
That's pretty strong, eh?
Very sick. Sure be a bit
It won't be any use to us at all, though, will it, really?
Well,
Good repair, though, whoever did that.
all you gotta do is get the plug on. Good fiberglass, dude. Okie dokie.